your name? Write it on that paper.
Psychiatrist Cuba Gooding Jr. has his first meeting with anthropologist and murderer Anthony Hopkins in Instinct, one of the new movies we're going to be reviewing this week, and we'll also have a report on this year's Cannes Film Festival. I'm Roger Ebert, film critic of the Chicago Sun-Times, and joining me in the balcony is someone I last saw checking his watch during a screening at the Cannes Film Festival.
I'm Kenneth Turan, film critic for the Los Angeles Times. It's great to be back, Roger.
It's great to have you back, Ken. And by the way, Ken and I do wear matching watches that allow us to light up the dial and see how many minutes a movie has left to run. It's very valuable at the Cannes Film Festival. Our first movie is Instinct, which seems to be hammered together, I think, out of spare parts. It's like a clunky assembly of material from The Silence of the Lambs, Gorillas in the Mist, and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, with a little prison reform thrown in for good measure. The film is top-heavy with good intentions. Anthony Hopkins plays an anthropologist who lived with gorillas for 2 years, learned the ways of the jungle, and then killed 2 forest rangers. He's been returned from Africa to an American psycho ward where psychiatrist Cuba Gooding Jr. gets a demonstration on the laws of the wild.
So who is in control? Huh? Are you? Am I? Guards outside?
There's more than an echo in this performance of Hannibal Lecter as the violent and dangerous man teaches a lesson to a professional who is trying to help him.
You think I won't do it? What's one psychiatrist less to the world? I'm already deep in the pit, so what can they do to me? Last try. Get it right. What have you lost? What did I take from you?
All the prisoners are supposed to get half an hour outside every day, but instead, the sadistic guards use a lottery involving a lucky playing card. Gooding tries to overthrow this system.
Everybody goes! Everybody goes! Everybody goes outside! Everybody goes! Everybody goes outside!
And that whole Ace of Diamonds business is a complete waste of 20 minutes of the movie and feels recycled from a prison reform movie. And I never really understood how Cuba Gooding thought he was going to get Anthony Hopkins out of that prison, which he keeps talking about. I'll get you out of here. I'll get you out of here. Because after all, no matter how much truth about life Hopkins learned from the gorillas, he still did commit 2 murders.
I know. This is one of those really wake up and smell the gorillas movies. This is, you know, real life and enjoy real life. And, you know, I kept watching this film. I had the horrible feeling that they think they've done something significant. They think this is a meaningful film, and that was really depressing.
Oh, the music tells you that. It's got the portentous, kind of bittersweet, sad, wise music under everything as we realize what enormous truths are being discussed. And all we're sitting there thinking is, this movie doesn't make any sense. I mean, why were the game wardens trying to shoot the gorillas? Why did the guy turn violent after he lives with these peaceful animals? I could list about 6 questions that fundamentally undermine the entire plot.
You wonder, did these people think about this film at all? Was this on their mind? Did they know how derivative it was? Did they know how little sense it meant? Did they just decide to keep quiet, or did they just not even notice?
Yeah, I was thinking, you know, Anthony Hopkins said for a long time he didn't want to do Hannibal Lecter again. Yeah. Well, if he wants to do him again, he might as well do him in this new Silence of the Lambs sequel instead of doing him here, where it's basically kind of like Hannibal Lecter light.
Yeah, it's like the wild man of Borneo. You know, he huffs and he puffs. He's like a Dr. Dolittle with an angry streak. You know, talking to the animals did not help him out at all. It's just unfortunate. You know, a lot of talented people, not a very talented result.
You're right.
Okay, next movie. And with a title like The Loss of Sexual Innocence, you know Mike Figgis's new film isn't going for the Armageddon crowd. It's not that there aren't any explosions, it's that there really isn't any plot. This is art cinema with a capital A. A moody memory piece put together by a talented, headstrong artist. There's sort of a main character, a director named Nick, played by Julian Sands, but the film frequently abandons him in favor of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. They're wearing far too few clothes to appear on this program, but we can show you Nick's old memories, like this sequence from his childhood in Africa.
I have eaten my honeycomb with my honey.
We also get to see Nick's dreams and fantasies, like this shot of the director watching himself. The Loss of Sexual Innocence is an intensely, even painfully personal project, a film where every picture tells a story to its creator. The problem is, we're not Mike Figgis, and what he's done really doesn't connect to us. It's his personal memory book, a series of snapshots from his life and his thoughts, plus sequences that, for us, come out of nowhere. It's all beautifully executed, but it's just not in the cards for anyone else to care.
Oh, I don't feel that way at all, Ken, because first of all, I don't know if these really are Mike Figgis' personal memories or whether he created them as a fiction. But whatever they are, I think it works like any stream of consciousness novel to show somebody who's going through the events of everyday life, and everything that he sees triggers memories of the things that brought him to this point and helped to shape him. And I love the fact that there's so little dialogue in the film, and a lot of the dialogue is just sort of overheard or nostalgic or half-heard. It doesn't drive the plot along. It's just a very beautiful movie to kind of to watch, almost like a musical performance.
Well, this is one of those films where if you like this kind of thing, this is the kind of thing you like. I mean, I felt I missed the plot. I wanted more plot to be driven along. There wasn't any plot to drive along.
I've seen enough plot-driven movies. I mean, I like a change every once in a while. I think that Figgis is trying to expand the envelope here and to move into uncharted territory, and I admired that.
You know, I think he didn't expand the envelope. He broke it, and I'd like to pull him back just a little bit.
Okay, we disagree. Coming up later, Ken and I are going to share our observations from this year's Cannes Film Festival, and coming up next, John Sayles' new thriller, Limbo.
Whatever happens, follow me. You've sung in a lot of places.
36 states and the territory of Puerto Rico.
Whoa.
Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio and David Strathern star in that scene from Limbo, a film that starts as romance and social commentary and then takes a sharp turn into danger. It's the new film by John Sayles, the independent filmmaker who sets his films in locations that become part of the story. His Lone Star was set on the Texas-Mexico border. His Secret of Rowan Inish was about a mythological Irish creature. And now here's a film set in Juneau, Alaska, a capital city where every road out of town ends, I'm told, in the wilderness.
They don't stop.
Well, some of them do. They just wear out and give up.
I'd make it.
Yeah?
I sweat. Do this much at the gym every day.
She's had bad luck with men, such bad luck that her daughter, played by Vanessa Martinez, is getting tired of her mom's romantic adventures.
You like boats?
I don't know, never been on them much.
Well, we're gonna cruise up north a ways, maybe see some whales. There's seals, sea lions.
My mother hates boats. Anything you do outdoors that's fun, she hates it.
Yeah.
And she's allergic to wool.
Yeah, she told me. You allergic to anything?
My mother's boyfriends.
The boat trip doesn't turn out the way they expected, and all three are stranded on an isolated island with little chance of rescue.
So what if it rains?
Well, if it rains or the tide comes in too high, we'll start from scratch.
And then we hope that somebody sees this and wonders what the story is.
Somebody who doesn't want to kill us.
One thing about John Sayles is that he doesn't repeat himself. The first half of Limbo led me to expect a story that would examine local life and politics in Alaska. It'd be kind of like what he did in New Jersey with City of Hope. But then suddenly everything changes when the wilderness steps in and threatens the lives of these characters. And then the ending of the film itself is absolutely unexpected, absolutely surprising, and just about perfect. Sayles spares us an obligatory cliche and gives us really the only ending that makes sense.
This film really threw me for a loop. It was not what I expected, and I was pretty much happy with it. I mean, he's such an interesting director. He's so smart. There's so much that goes into his films. You know, I felt at times that he was pushing too much into this film, that he was trying to put too much in there. But mostly I was happy with, again, how different this film was.
I think he gets it all in, unlike Instinct, where they try to push it all in and there were arms and legs hanging out on the various sides of the plot. But here, he starts out to make a John Sayles film. Well, we're going to find out about the fish industry and about ecology and about people's lives. And then the plot shows you how a state like Alaska, surrounded by wilderness, it is wilderness, it takes a human life and just says, no, nature has other plans for you.
You know, in a time when so much experimental film, so much independent film has become so formulaic, I mean, John Sayles is one of the original independents. His Return of the Secaucus 7 in 1978 almost started the new American independent movement. This is what real independence means. This is a film that goes its own way, that has its own ideas, and you just, if you're not quite happy with them, that's your problem.
That's right, and it ends up in its own place.
Absolutely.
And people are going to leave the theater debating that ending. Coming up next, Ken and I just returned from the Cannes Film Festival, and we will have our report on the world's most glamorous, most exciting, and most maddening film event.
Special Festival Spotlight is brought to you by Nestle's Raisinets. At the movies or at home, Raisinets.
For 12 days recently, Ken and I were among the thousands of journalists covering the 52nd annual Cannes Film Festival in the south of France. This is the biggest and most famous film festival in the world, and for people like us, pretty much a non-stop grueling experience. You try to tell your editors it's work and they don't believe you, but it is work. From when we trudge up the steps of the Palais de Festival for the 8:30 a.m. press screening, to the evening black tie official screenings where festival director Gilles Jacob greets his guests at the top of the red carpet, to the parties held every night on the beach, like the one for Kevin Smith's controversial new film, Dogma. And there he is with his wife, Jennifer. Also at the party, I ran into Ben Affleck, Linda Fiorentino, and Miramax boss Harvey Weinstein, planning a new film with director John Singleton. I saw a lot of good films at Cannes this year, but not many of them were on the strange and controversial list of winners turned in by a jury headed by Canada's David Cronenberg. The audience in the Palais de Festival booed and whistled and greeted with derision and incredulity that list of winners. Kenny, what did you think about this year's festival?
I was as astonished as everyone else, and I had someone say to me in his 36 years of coming to Cannes, this was the strangest jury selection he'd ever seen. And you know, Cannes is always a madhouse, but this year's the jury's baffling choices really made things even worse. But as I used to say in my old neighborhood, Roger, even a blind hog finds a truffle now and then. And the jury's unexpected selection of the Belgian film Rosetta for the Palme d'Or was definitely deserved. Rosetta's story is deceptively simple. A young woman on the fringes of society brings an astonishing fury to what should be the simple task of just getting a job.
Oui. Alors pourquoi est-ce que vous voulez que je parte?
Je vous l'ai dit, vous avez été remercié parce que vous avez terminé votre période d'essai.
Pourquoi pas alors que je fais bien mon travail?
It's a triumph of caring, involved filmmaking, and I was delighted to see it win. There were a lot of films to like at Cannes, starting with the winner of the Best Director prize, Pedro Almodóvar's All About My Mother.
Tres chicas solas, en una casa, con pocos muebles, me recuerda siempre como casarse con un millonario.
For me, the best first film in the festival was Ratcatcher, a magical debut by Scottish filmmaker Lynn Ramsay. Its story of the harsh effects of poverty and neglect on a 14-year-old boy in the slums of Glasgow is awfully familiar, but Ramsay tells it in such a poetic way we feel we've never seen it before. Much funnier was the droll Belgian Le Convoyeur attend, The Carriers Are Waiting. It's an offbeat, melancholy comedy that shows what happens when an obsessive father tries to turn his teenage son into the door-opening champion of the world. You just had to be there.
Michel, ton entraîneur. Tu serres bien fort, là. Bien fort. Et même moi, ça n'accroche pas.
The most impressive studio picture was Cradle Will Rock, written and directed by Tim Robbins. It's got a great ensemble cast, everyone from Joan Cusack and Bill Murray to Susan Sarandon and John Cusack. Also a pleasant surprise was Dogma, the brazen and very funny new film from Kevin Smith. It's a one-of-a-kind comic fantasy about Linda Fiorentino saving the world from evil that somehow combines crude adolescent humor and a sincere look at questions of religious faith.
Someone told me I'd meet you and you'd take me someplace I was supposed to go. Finally,
there was With Fire and Sword, a 3-hour and 3-minute historical drama that's been called the Gone with the Wind of Poland. I saw With Fire and Sword, not at the festival itself, but at the film market, where movies are bought and sold day and night. Its old-fashioned emphasis on battling noblemen, beautiful princesses, and bare-chested Cossack warriors pounding enormous drums was the break I needed after all that seriousness in the competition.
You know, sometimes that happens. You get to the point where you can't go up those steps to see one more serious, deep film, and you just want to go back to the Rue d'Antibes, where they're showing the movies and the people have the checkbooks out and they're buying them for various territories, and you can make some good discoveries back there.
Yeah, and this is why we fell in love with movies in the first place. These are the kind of movies we loved as children, and they still have value, and it's unfortunate we can never see them in the competition anymore.
In fact, one of the things that people criticized Gilles Jacob about was the fact, and Harvey Weinstein of Miramax was one of the people who said this, there doesn't seem to be room in the official competition anymore for movies. They're all kind of concept films.
I know, it's like the International Film Award is slitting its own throat.
When we come back, I'll discuss some of my favorites from this year's Cannes Festival, including the new film by Spike Lee. Special report on this year's Cannes Film Festival. I thought there was a particularly strong group of films this year from independent filmmakers. And Ken, you mentioned a couple of them, Tim Robbins and Kevin Smith. And here are some others that I admired. Ghost Dog by Jim Jarmusch is a wonderfully sly and unexpected comedy starring Forrest Whitaker as a mafia hitman who follows the rules of Japanese samurai warriors.
I'm trying to warn you that they're gonna kill you. And maybe me too.
Better me than you, Louis.
Well, right now I'd have to agree with that.
Steven Soderbergh had a film called The Limey starring Terence Stamp and Peter Fonda in the story of a man from England who wants revenge and finds it in Southern California. Straight Story was a complete change of pace for David Lynch, a G-rated human comedy starring Richard Farnsworth and a rich performance as a 72-year-old who wants to visit his dying brother, doesn't have a driver's license, and so he drives a lawn tractor from Iowa to Wisconsin.
Rosie, I've got to go see Lyle. And I've got to make this trip on my own.
Spike Lee's Summer of Sam was the most exciting film I saw at Cannes. It's not the story of the serial killer named Sam, so much as the story of how the killings affected New York City during a long, hot summer in 1977. And, of course, the Blair Witch Project continued its triumphant progress through film festivals. It was the sleeper hit at Sundance, and won a lot of praise at Cannes, too, for its story of a witch hunt allegedly told entirely through the footage of a documentary team that disappeared in the middle of the hunt.
And it's all because of me that we're here now. Hungry, and cold, and hunted.
A British film named East is East starred the talented actor Om Puri as a Pakistani who has lived in England for many years, has a British wife, and tries unsuccessfully to raise his children according to traditional customs. Angelica Houston was in the director's fortnight with Agnes Brown, an Irish story, and played the title role of a new widow who has to find a direction for the rest of her life.
Do you miss it? Oh, miss what? How you know?
The Chinese director Shin Kaga was at Cannes with The Emperor and the Assassin, the most expensive epic in Chinese history about warfare 3,000 years ago. Gong Li was the star. A dozen times a day, people ask you which film you like best at Cannes, but how in the world can you compare The Emperor and the Assassin and The Blair Witch Project? This year was a homecoming for directors who were essentially discovered at Cannes, like Spike Lee, Steven Soderbergh, Tim Robbins, and Jim Jarmusch, and it was good to see them in top form.
I know, I mean, there were some really good films there, but I still feel that jury kind of cast a pall over the whole festival.
Yeah.
You know, it was really, it's like any film that any normal person had a chance of liking, that film was out.
Yeah, you know, I didn't see the winning film, which you liked, and you didn't like Humanité, which won 3 prizes, including the special jury prize, and I saw redeeming merits in it, although I think Variety was correct. Todd McCarthy said it's the slowest murder investigation ever filmed. But they were peculiar choices.
I know. I mean, film began as a popular art, and when people start to feel that this is a defect in film, that if people like films, they're bad, we're really in bad shape here.
And speaking of Humanité, you went even further in your article, Ken, than Variety did, calling it completely insane and saying that people in the audience were tearing their hair. But it won the Grand Jury Prize, which is sort of second place, and it also won a Best Actress Award for Severine Keneal and a Best Actor Award for Emmanuel Schott as the slowest murder investigator ever filmed. And you know, no matter whether an individual Cannes festival is great or only ordinary, it's refreshing to be in a place for 2 weeks where people talk about film instead of about box office.
No, I once interviewed Luchino Visconti there, and that's what he said. He said, it's cinema, cinema, cinema all day long. He loved it, and there's something to be said for it.
We'll be right back. Now let's take another look at the movies we reviewed this week. 2 thumbs down for Instinct, the thriller that was top-heavy with good intentions and weighed down with uplifting cliches. We split, though, on The Loss of Sexual Innocence. I thought it was poetic and original, but Ken thought it was too self-involved, an inside job. But we both liked Limbo, the John Sayles film where romance is interrupted by the implacable law of the wilderness. Thanks for being here this week, Ken.
It's been a pleasure.
Remember, you can hear the reviews by Ken and myself on the web at Siskel-Ebert.com, part of Go Network. Next week, more new movies, including Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me, starring Mike Myers and Heather Graham, in a film that was also not an official entry at Cannes this year. That's next week, and until then, the balcony is closed.
Take a bite of Croissant Pockets chicken, broccoli, and cheddar. Discover white meat chicken, broccoli, real cheese, and a crispy, flaky croissant crust.
What are you gonna pick?
Croissant Pockets.
Rent a Rug Doctor, the easiest way to clean your carpets, giving you professional deep cleaning at a fraction of the cost. You can find Rug Doctor at the front of most supermarkets. Rent one today.
Now on pay-per-view, the comedy smash that will knock your socks off. Adam Sandler is The Waterboy, rated PG-13.
Sylvan personalizes programs to help students succeed. So use this summer to give your child a jump start for fall. Call Sylvan at 1-800-31-SUCCESS.
Closed captioning for Siskel and Ebert is brought to you by...
Nothing tastes like popcorn cooked in a pot on the stove. Except, new home-style microwave popcorn from Pop Secret.